Hi, everybody, and welcome again today to WinPure's weekly webinar. For those that are new, my name is Ben Cutler, and I'm one of our solutions specialists here at WinPure. Just a quick introduction for those that are new to the call today. We're sending out the invites to these webinars to really a broad audience, mostly partners, existing clients, folks that are evaluating the software, but of course, we've got others that join the call as well, and we really appreciate everyone's time. Each week, we're covering a very specific topic, generally geared towards product introduction, product training, and orientation. But keep an eye out for occasional hot topics and guest speakers, where we might dive more into some of the topics like digital transformation, predictive analytics, and others. So please stay tuned and join us when you can, or keep your eyes out for the recordings if you can't join us live. You can also search for us, just WinPure on YouTube, and check all of the historical recordings that way. This week, we're going to be taking a closer look at the data profiling and statistics. So quick note is that everyone on the call is muted, but you can ask questions throughout the webinar. There is a question box on the GoToWebinar control panel, and I will try to answer those questions, usually starting at about the 15 or 20-minute mark. Following this webinar, I will send out an email to anyone that registered. That email will include a link to the recording and a link to my online calendar. So feel free to get in touch, even just shoot back a response if you have any questions, feedback, if you have any suggestions in terms of a topic for a future webinar. Would love to hear from you. But keep in mind, I'll send you a link to the recording and a link to my online calendar. If you'd like to discuss anything in more detail, if you'd like to book a one-on-one or a group demonstration with me, I'd be happy to make those arrangements. So again, thank you everyone for joining today. We're going to go ahead and move right into today's topic, data profiling and statistics, and just a bit of warm up before we jump into the demonstration. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So for those that might be asking the question, what is data profiling? Data profiling is essentially just the process of reviewing data to better understand the data quality. So typically, you're looking at structure and content and interrelationships. You're looking at statistics and potentially even informative summaries about that data. Data profiling is typically a critical part of data warehouse and business intelligence initiatives, data conversion and data migration projects, system implementations, also source system data quality projects, pretty much anything master data management, and much more. So hopefully this will be relevant for everyone on the call here today. So looking at a study here sponsored by Microsoft, the power of quality data, the article here states that data leaders consistently outperform their peers in core business metrics. And this is really huge. If you look down below here, gross margins 18 percentage points higher, operating margins that are 4 percentage points higher, and on average, that translates to margins that are 100 million higher. I mean, that's just huge, right? So I certainly hope that everyone on the call today is striving to be a data leader in their sector. Quick note here, and really just a shout out to a good friend of mine, a thought leader, a business leader and consultant in data services. Mark, thank you for joining the call today. 30 plus years of experience in data operations, and I'm really pulling some of his thoughts into this presentation now. So before you start any project, large or small, start by analyzing the unknowns, right? When you're looking at requirements, do you have a complete set of requirements? Do you have a complete step-by-step set of instructions? And if you do, how can you be sure that those requirements have been fully rationalized? How can you be sure that you're not missing anything? Peripheral opportunities, for example, that might even become roadblocks down the line. Data profiling essentially helps you to quickly understand how closely the data matches its description and your company's business rules. So really important to make this part of really the initial exercises before embarking on any particular project. Data profiling at a glance is really looking at the structure and the content, right? So there's structure discovery, which is looking at validating the consistency and the formatting of your data. So a good example here is pattern matching to check valid data structure or syntax. A real life example might be looking at a phone number or an email, for example. And if we're looking at the structure or syntax of an email address, we're going to expect to have an @ symbol after the username and prior to the domain. And if we've got a number symbol in place of the @ symbol, that's something that we would want to pick up during this profiling exercise. So that's really the a quick example of structure discovery. And then again, we're going to get into the demonstration and look at some other ways that this is done. Content discovery looks at individual elements and helps you to gain an even more accurate image of the quality of your data. So an example here is discovering incorrect or ambiguous values that may not support your business objectives. So let's think here of a real life example, maybe product data, for example, where you might have 10 different ways of describing or representing the same unit of measurement or the same unit of weight. Or, if we think of kind of a consumer product that we can probably all relate to, something like, a television and the different, ways of describing the resolution, right? UHD and 4K and things like that, a variety of different ways of describing essentially the same piece of information, right? So when we talk about content discovery, that's one of the ways that we're looking at the data. So lastly here, before we jump into the demonstration, it's just data profiling in detail. I'm not going to go through all of this now. I would certainly welcome a conversation. Again, I'll send out an email with a link to my online calendar, or feel free just to respond to the email with any questions. Data profiling in detail is typically looking to collect descriptive statistics like min, max, count, and sum, data types, length, recurring patterns, tagging data with keywords, descriptions, or categories, performing data quality assessments, discovering metadata and assessing its accuracy, identifying distributions, key candidates, foreign key candidates, and a lot more. So what we're going to look at today, again, is our Clean and Match Enterprise Edition with address verification. We're going to look very specifically at our data profiling utility, which is out of the box. It's plug and play. It's very simple to use, doesn't require any special skills or training, and it simply produces very useful and very actionable information very quickly. Other questions that might arise in terms of profiling, I can envision here, is address verification considered data profiling, or is email verification considered part of data profiling? Or is data matching considered part of profiling? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Being able to quickly and easily validate interrelationships and the validity of your data against very specific standards is all part of that data profiling exercise. So a variety of other tools in the software and also tools that we provide as professional services can be used for data profiling purposes. So let's go ahead and jump into the demonstration here today. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to look at the software. Great. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So for new users, you might wonder, how simple is it to install the software, to load data? So let's just take a quick look here. I am loading data. And it's, as you can see, it's very simple to do. We can import from different databases, different file types, a couple of different CRMs directly. For today's demonstration, I'm just going to pull in a couple of Excel worksheets. And you can see it's very quick. It's very simple. Again, requires minimal training. The software is very plug and play. It's very intuitive. You know, for those who haven't already installed the software, it's literally 2 minutes to download and maybe another 2 minutes to install. Very, very simple. And you can start importing data, and immediately that data profiler becomes useful for you. So we've imported some data here from a couple of different Excel worksheets. We're going to move to the Clean tab, and immediately we have our data profiling statistics available to us. So I'll direct your eyes here to the lower right side of the screen, where we're going to view the data quality statistics here. And this is fairly interactive, right? So it's not just the statistics, there is more, and I'm going to walk you through that. So again, we can go sheet by sheet or source by source, and then column by column, and quickly and easily ascertain, you know, again, the quality of the data, looking specifically at the structure and the content, right? So here I have, you know, a dozen or so columns, and very quickly and easily I can tell what type of data those columns contain. In this case, it's all string. I can quickly and easily and visually see the filled percentage, the empty percentage, the distinct count. Now let's stop here at the distinct count for a minute. I mentioned that this is fairly interactive, right? And again, we've also talked about doing some content discovery. So actually looking at the values within the data set. So we talked about ambiguous values, incorrect or ambiguous values, right? Looking at, you know, specifically the example of product data and, you know, consumer products like a television, different ways of describing, you know, resolution, for example, 4K and UHD and things like that. So let's come down and let's take a look at the title column on this sheet 1. And let's just assume that the title column is a column that is of particular interest or higher value, and that's why we're gonna, you know, we're gonna do a bit of discovery with this column. So if we come down to the title column and we look at the 17 unique values or distinct values within this column, we can also double click in this cell and we can visually validate those values up top. So very quickly and easily ascertaining the usefulness of this data, right? I'm going to go ahead and right click and sort by count, which allows me to look at those values that exist more than others, right? Just by sorting on the count here. So very quickly and easily, I can see that I have, you know, owner and principal, probably with a trailing space or something. I have principal, again, probably without a trailing space. I have president and owner. And depending on your purposes, your business objectives for this data, that may be ambiguous. That may not support your business objectives, right? If you tell me, Ben, look, what I need to know is, you know, all of the contacts that are, you know, owner or C-level or above, or any contacts that are manager or below, right? And the problem here is that I've got, you know, a variety of different titles in my data set here. And, you know, it'd be useful to do some standardization, right? And so again, being able to quickly and easily profile the data and better understand the content of this column, we're going to be able to make more informed decisions about how to clean it up, right? Now, again, right here within the software, we can use our word manager to do that type of standardization. If I want to take, you know, principal and owner and president, and just roll up all of these variations with non-printable characters and leading spaces and trailing spaces and things like that, or other variations like principal, and just roll them all up to a clean version of owner, I can do that very, very quickly. I can also do it making big, broad stroke, bulk changes to the data very quickly and very easily, again, using our word managers. So we're not going to look at that example today. We'll look at that more in detail on another webinar. But hopefully this makes good sense for everyone on the call. Let's look at some of the other things that we can follow here. or that we can pick up on very quickly and easily using the data profiler. We can look at trailing spaces, commas, dots, hyphens, apostrophes. So again, looking at that structure, doing some structure discovery, and again, also looking at the content discovery. So content discovery, if I want to see commas in my company name field, I can double click down below and I can do some visual validation up top. So very quick, very simple, and very actionable information here, helping you to make more informed decisions. So we're about halfway through, so I want to speed it up just a little bit here. I also want to point out anywhere you're seeing red is an indication of a potential high-risk data quality issue. Anywhere you're seeing yellow is the potential of a medium-risk data quality issue. So these are indicators, these are flags. The software is telling you where you might want to look. But of course, each use case, each set of requirements, each set of data governance rules and things like that are going to be different. So you're probably going to want to do some visual validation there, focusing on some of these more key columns that are of particular interest to you, right? So we've got these quick indicators down below, and I can see here trailing spaces, leading spaces, non-printable characters, multiple spaces. Some of these issues are pretty much always going to be problematic. Others may not be data quality issues, depending on what your expectations, what your business case are, right? When I do a double click down below, the software is smart enough to also tell me how to remove some of these issues. So you can see trailing spaces on the company name. I did a click down here, and it's highlighted up top, just telling me how to remove trailing spaces from the company name. So very intuitive. And if I want to make that one change or apply that one change to all columns, I can use our check all and apply that one change to all columns. So again, very quickly and easily, I can clean up these issues using our cleaning options up top, but I'm not going to go too much into detail in all of that just today. Now, when I run a clean, any changes up top is also going to feed the information and update the statistics down below. So very, very useful. You can see I have no red now in the trailing spaces, leading spaces, multiple spaces. So very, very useful that as we make changes, we can also update the statistics down below. So quick note, we can also export the statistics here. So if we want to, for example, export the statistics before we start the work, before we start doing some cleaning, and then export after we do the cleaning, that might be a nice way to kind of show checks and balances, things like that, right? So let's pick up the pace a little bit here and look at some of the other things. Leading spaces, letters, numbers where they may not belong. If you have a letter and a phone number field, probably something you want to take a look at, for example. Non-printable characters with spaces, multiple spaces, new line char, tab char, punctuation. We're also looking at casing, so upper only, lower only, proper case here, mixed case. We're looking at most common values. We can make this a little bit bigger and we can do some visual validation down here of the most common values. Most common count, min number, statistical values here, max number, max words, average words, things like that, max length and average length. So that's really just kind of a quick overview, kind of a product introduction in terms of how we can help you when it comes to data profiling and statistics here. So I hope this was useful. I'm going to open it up to questions. Hopefully leave enough time for any questions that come in. If you have any questions about what I covered here today, if you want to see something again, or if you have any other questions, I would certainly welcome those. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the questions that are coming in, and we'll go through those one by one. Again, if there's anything I can't get to today, anything that we need to discuss in more detail, would welcome a conversation offline, and I'll send you out a link to book some time on my calendar. So let's take a look here. Great, so question number one, are there any explanations of each of the statistical headings? Great question. Yeah, so if we assume that these are the statistical headings down below, some of them may even contain an explanation just when you kind of scroll over that. In addition, you're going to find a link to the online help file all throughout the software. So again, it's plug and play, it's intuitive, simple to use, it's very visual, doesn't require much training or any special skills. But above and beyond that, you'll see throughout the workflow here, you've got this question mark here. If we go up top and click there, we're going to see an explanation and also a link specifically to that section in the help file. So all throughout the workflow there, you can quickly and easily move over to the online help file. That'll contain definitions or explanations of all of the classifications here. So good question. Question number 2. Questions are jumping around on me here a little bit. Can you click every single cell on that statistics window? Yeah, absolutely. So depending on the column that we're looking at, different things, you might have different expectations, different kind of functionalities available to you. So again, most of what you see here in terms of the statistics down below, we can easily kind of click, double click into these cells and visually validate that information up top. So that visual validation is going to be available for most of what you see down below. I'll point a few other things out here. When we look at empty or filled, for example, we can also right click on empty or filled. We can then filter on the data table. What this is going to do is it's going to take us back to the data step where we imported the data, and it's going to filter down to those that are empty in the score field. So a quick example here, filter on the data table. It's going to take us back and it's going to filter down to the one record that is empty in that score field, I think is what we were using there. So again, some different ways that you can kind of work with this. Again, feel free to reach out if you're looking to do something specific. Also keep in mind throughout the workflow, whenever you see a column header, you can left click or right click to do some additional sorting, filtering, conditional filtering, things like that, searching or finding, and things like that. So there is more to talk about there. If you want to have an offline conversation, feel free to reach out. I'd welcome that. Let's take a look at some of the other questions here. Yeah, great question. So Mark, I see this one from you. Is it possible to export the unique values for a given field? Yeah, good question. Yeah, in fact, Mark, I think you stumped me on this one because it's not immediately jumping into mind here. Mark, let me, we certainly can. So we can do that with the word manager. So for example, in the word manager, and let's use that title, for example. In the word manager, we can look at values and words and we can export what we have here. So that's one way to do it. I'm wondering if we can, if there's a quicker and an easier way to do it, maybe right here from the statistics. But at the end of the day, we can certainly export unique words or unique values using the word manager here. So great question. Mark, we can discuss that more offline here after the webinar. Let's take a look at some of the other questions. Conscientious of time here. Can we export the cleanse data? And it looks like this, okay, yeah, can we export the cleanse data? Yeah, great question. So once the cleansing has been done, and we actually touched on this during the Clean Matrix webinar a couple of weeks ago, but if you look up top here, you can click on the Clean tab, and here you can save and load matrices, right? So this is essentially a template of your cleansing settings. Really, really useful. If you want to discuss that in more detail, reach out. Should save you a ton of time, be really useful for you. We also, again, we did have a webinar on that. But again, we can also export statistics or simply export the clean data out to different file types or databases here. So there is some more up top if you click on that clean tab. So great question. Let me see what else we have. Can we split address information into multiple fields like street number, street name, etc. Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So this is a question on cleaning. And so you can see here we have some different address fields. And just a real quick example, we have multiple address fields. And the question is, can we split address information into multiple fields? So we have street number in one column, street name in another column, things like that. Yeah, we can do that two different ways. So one way, well, really probably three or more different ways. So, where I would start is with split. And with split here, if we look at the address columns, we can split on the address. And real quickly and easily, we can split those values. So here, again, you have those input columns. I might even want to just run clean as kind of a best practice. Here we have those input columns. And then if you follow this all the way over to the right, we've inserted some new columns splitting that data. So the new columns here with the uppercase A street number, street prefix, street name, you can see where we're breaking that down for you. So very quickly and very easily. I mentioned a few other ways that this can be done. Our enterprise edition with address verification, keep in mind address verification is available worldwide, so we can include address verification country by country. We can do region by region, or we can do a worldwide package. We can do that as part of the base solution here, so you can do it on premise. We also have address capture, which is really more of kind of an API. So a few different ways, a few different things to talk about that way as well. That's really, really your silver bullet when it comes to address verification. In addition, the word manager and regular expressions can also be useful for cleaning up addresses. So the word manager, we can do some replacements and removals. We do that, kind of working with the count of values, or with words or abbreviations within the column there. So we can make some big broad stroke changes. Common use case for the word manager on addresses is cleaning up street suffixes and prefixes and things like that, your drive, avenue, and all of the different kind of ambiguous, variations of the way that those, prefixes and suffixes might be described. Regular expressions works with patterns. So regular expressions does essentially what we're seeing here, is splitting values like this. But regular expression, the benefit there is that you can really set it up to, per your own business requirements. So, it's less out of the box, but it allows you a lot more flexibility and customization that way, or personalization. So great question. Let me see if I can get to all of the other questions here. Before we, how are we on time? 2 minutes. Can we split zip codes into 5+4? Yeah, so let's move over here and just take a quick look. That's exactly what we did here, just using, again, the address and the city-state zip split. Is we took a 9-digit zip here, and we split it into 5+4. So if you want to do something a little different, you're not sure how, feel free to reach out. We can take that conversation offline. Great question. And looks like we've got a couple more. And again, I don't want to go over time today, so I think maybe one of the two, and then maybe I'll try to answer this the last question there just by email. Let me see. In previous versions, merging fields to create a merged field was putting a delimiter in between. That was not helpful to create an address field. Is a delimiter still required, or can we skip it now? Good question. I actually don't have an immediate answer. I mean, my immediate answer is not as confident as I'd like it to be, but if you come up here to the top here, so column merge separator and column split separator, so feel free to, I mean, I think, making some changes, some adjustments, and just playing around with the column merge separator is probably going to help you out that way. But again, we can have a better conversation offline. I think that's about it for today, folks. I just want to thank everybody again for your time today. I'll try to get to that last question offline here, following the webinar. But thank you everyone for joining again. I really encourage you to keep an eye out for future topics and webinars over the next few weeks here. Hope this was helpful. It's been fun, And I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Take good care.